G'day, how you going? We're looking at things Australians would never do. Things Australians would never do. This is a list of 10 things, actually, the original video. But I will link it down below, and you can watch the whole thing down there and check out their channel. This comes from Aussie English is the channel. Great stuff. Make sure you check them out. And we'll only cover a few of them so that you can watch the whole thing on their stuff. But yeah, it's going to be a good one for comments because anything not covered here, I would love to hear from you of things Australians would never do. Such a broad statement, right? Let's have some fun with this. Here we go.
Unions. Just watched Cloud9 on Netflix, and if someone tried to bust a union in my country, it'd make national news and gather massive support. Yeah, so there are lots of unions here in Australia too. Again, I'm not sure if that would be America or Europe. So unions are effectively groups that take care of workers' rights in Australia. So you'll have like the teachers' union or the workers' union at work sites.
Yeah, like UAW, factory workers. I was part of that when I worked for Chrysler. Police unions, teachers unions, like you said, plumbers, electricians, right? There's tons.
Tradies union, and they look after those workers. I think it would be the same thing in Australia if you tried to bust up a union here and get rid of it,
That'd
unions
be bad.
altogether. People would riot.
I'm assuming
that's not going to happen.
I think you would have a lot of people in the streets protesting. Songs with
so I think that's one thing Australia and the U.S. would be similar on. Unions are definitely still a thing in full force. And if a lot of unions tried to be abolished, I think that would raise some hell. Let's just put it that way. I don't see that happening.
swear words being broadcasted on the radio or swear words not being covered with a beep tone on TV. It's always felt weird to me that Americans are all about being free and freedom of speech, but then again, they're scared of some stupid words.
So we're going to hear his answer because I'm actually interested to hear the Australian point of view here. That one I will agree with, right? Now, we all know the stigma. America sells itself as, super freedom, right? Freedom of speech, which we do. We do have freedom of speech, and, it's very much protected, right? Freedom of speech is very real here. But the whole freedom thing is a little itchy, right? I don't know if that's the right word to use, but it's like some things are really free and some things feel a little bit not free here, right? And, to nitpick, a lot of things are very much censored here, which is kind of interesting, right? Coming from this laid-back, free approach that they, tend to say, there is a lot of, ads, commercials, songs on the radio, everything's censored. And, I've seen ads from, Australia, New Zealand. I've seen ads, especially from, Europe, for some fun videos. And, dude, they are they get away with a lot, right, compared to themes you would see here in the U.S. It's very conservative, right? Like they don't do anything edgy or violent or sexual or, no cuss words, right, in ads and primetime songs. You might hear cuss words in songs if you're listening to the radio at midnight, but during the day, morning, afternoon, evening, you're not. It's going to be censored. So I've always found that a little bit ironic. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I find that amusing too, and it happened in Australia when I was growing up. There would be certain restrictions with what type of TV could be shown at what times, and it would be the same for radio. And so if it was during a certain period of time, say 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. in that window, there's probably a restriction and it has to be PG, meaning parental guidance, so they're not going to have swear.
So similar idea to the U.S., although not as strict because ours would be longer hours. I feel like between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. would be radio and ads on TV have to be very safe, right? Risky stuff has got to be in the middle of the night.
They're not going to have sex scenes, or they're not going to have people talking about adult themes like drugs.
Right.
To protect the children.
The swear words in music would always be beeped out, but if you're watching late at night or early in the morning, it wouldn't be. The weird thing was that you could always tell what the swear word was. For you'd hear beep.
Team sucks.
And so I always found it kind of redundant.
Yeah, they don't do a good job censoring it.
Automatically receive.
Dude, it's crazy. Does anyone remember using YouTube like 10 years ago? I've been watching YouTube since like 2000, I want to say like 2006, 2007. I think YouTube came out in 2005. So I've watched, avid YouTube watcher since the beginning, basically. And YouTube was a lot different back then, not just for cussing and stuff, but yeah, you could swear and do a lot and get away with a lot on YouTube as a creator. Now, I wasn't a creator back then, but I'm saying that I do know that back then you could get away with a lot and be monetized. You could, swear your ass off and still be fully monetized, say in like, I don't know, 2010. And now there's so many things they would love to strike down on your channel, right? It's changed a lot, unfortunately.
Why would you do that?
Putting mayonnaise.
Firstly, ketchup.
Ew.
So this is American. Ketchup, we would never say ketchup. We would say tomato sauce.
Yes.
Or if you're really Australian, dead horse. But yeah, it's becoming more and more common to see aioli, which I think is what?
Yeah.
Garlic and mayonnaise being...
I think that's similar over here. I think that is becoming more trendy, although I am a weirdo, okay? Ready? I'm really showing my American, but not just American, because this doesn't go for all of America. I'm showing my Midwest roots here. I have French fries with ranch. I said it. I love it. If I'm feeling really frisky, maybe, cheese fries, right? Everyone has cheese fries once in a while, right? But ranch is my go-to. I don't even like ketchup. So yeah, you got to tell me how weird you think that is in the comments. Or if you've ever had it, maybe you like it. I doubt it, though. I doubt anyone commenting is going to like that. But I love it. That's the Midwest way. We have ranch on everything. Yeah, it's like a thing in like Illinois, Iowa, Indiana. Like, we love ranch. But yeah, I am not a ketchup fan. I really just do not like it. I don't have it basically on anything. Although I will say tomato sauce from Australia that I've had is good because it's different, right? It is different. It's a different color. Now, there's lots of different ketchups here, so I guess you could maybe find one that's similar. I shouldn't say ketchup as a broad term. There's like literally 20 different kinds you can buy in the store here. But, if we're going with like the most generic ketchup, I don't like it. Whereas the tomato sauce I've had from Australia was pretty good. Still wouldn't take it over ranch because I'm a weirdo, I guess. But yeah, it is better. Mayo, though, again, maybe this sounds even weirder. I will have ranch. No way I'm having mayo. I cannot stand mayo, and mayo and fries, no thanks. It's just not me.
Places where you get burgers and chips and everything for you to have the chips dipped in. So it's becoming less and less of a weird thing. Go to school or walk around the neighborhood by themselves without supervision. A Dutch family moved to the US and their kids went to school on their bikes like they always do. After a while, the police showed up on their doorstep and Child Protective Services.
What the hell?
That's weird. That's very weird.
That's hella weird. I feel like that's extreme. I don't think Child Protective Services would show up all the time if you're letting your kid roam free. I don't know, man. That depends. It also depends. Like, the U.S. is so big, and like anywhere, you're going to have nicer areas, maybe more dangerous areas. You're also going to have areas where it's just not feasible. Of course, it's the U.S., right? There's no way, in mostly everywhere I've lived in the U.S., there's no way that as a kid you're walking to school. It's too freaking far. Although, it depends. Like, I could think of a couple scenarios in my childhood home. If I were to go to the school down the street, that would have been feasible because there is a school down the street. But basically everywhere else I've lived, school's way too far away. So, like, that's just not realistic in most places in the U.S. And then, of course, letting your kids play outside, well, that's normal. I mean, everyone, I hope, plays outside. I feel like that's important. But, having them actually ride their bike away from the house, around the neighborhood, or even walk away from the house, it's going to depend, I think, right? On family to family, what ages, do they feel safe? Is it a safe area set up to do that, with sidewalks and stuff? Or is it a little dangerous with traffic and stuff? It's just way too situational in the U.S. to say there's like a consistent, stigma. Yeah, I think it's a lot more rare, unfortunately, than it was when I was a kid in the 90s. Everything's changed, and I guess kind of changed for the worse for kids having a lot of freedom outside. I don't think it's as common anymore.
In Australia, it's pretty common for kids to just walk to school or to ride their bikes to school. There's no issue here.
Will somebody please call Child Protective Services?
I think people are a lot less liberal than they used to be. So when my dad was a kid, at the age of 8, he was probably out and about in the streets without supervision. For us, it's probably more like once you get to about 12 years old, unless you're going to school. And usually when you're going to school at a younger age, under 12, you're probably going to be with other kids or maybe walking with other family members. But anytime you're going to and from school, there's other people in the street doing the same thing. So it's kind of pretty safe. Taking the bus. There is so much stigma around public transport in the US, especially buses, and in Europe, it's just a totally normal way to get around because no one wants to deal with driving and parking in a big city. Yeah, in the big cities in Australia, this is
what's it like in Australia?
Getting a bus or getting a train or a tram if you've got them in your city. But when you go out into the more rural areas, it's definitely a little more dodgy. You're going to come across a lot of interesting characters on the bus because generally they're going to be people who don't have the kind of income to be able to purchase a car and drive the car where they want to go.
Or because of certain substances, they may be unable to drive a car.
So they'll be young kids or students. But then you're going to get, if they're 30, 40, 50 years old, they're going to be probably a little on the strange side quite often.
Yeah, so that sounds a little similar, but that's more situational, like maybe, like you said, out in the rural areas in Australia. Whereas some big cities might have a good public transport system set up, which I feel like there are a couple cities that do that pretty well, right, in Australia. In the U.S., same deal. I mean, everyone rips on U.S. public transport like it's trash. I mean, I don't know if it's as a whole is complete trash. I feel like I've heard, like, New York and I don't know. I guess I don't know where else. I feel like there's a couple cities that have good public transport. I feel like Chicago has pretty good rated public transport, at least for U.S. standards. But again, most people don't use it. It's very car dependent here. I think everyone knows that. And it has a weird stigma. Like if you ride the bus, man, you are hurting or something, right? I mean, there are unfortunately a bunch of strange characters on the buses and certain, like train lines and stuff here in the U.S. And it can be kind of a sketchy way to get around. So most people just avoid it. And it's kind of a shame when you think about it, but that's just the way it is here. You're not going to catch me on the bus. I just don't feel the need here, right? I'm used to driving. I've done it, my whole driving life. And I have plenty of cars, and it's just what I would choose, right? That's what I like. So I guess that's the American in me.
Bus wankers!
Where did that come from? I don't know, it just felt right.
I mean, I've heard a lot of stories. My wife uses the bus sometimes, and she's just like, geez, there are some rare units on the bus. Apparently, having your laundry machines in the kitchen, I think it would be great, but Americans appear to be horrified by the thought on real estate social media groups. Yeah, that's weird. Having your...
Yes, even the Aussie thinks it's weird. Why on earth would you have your washer and dryer in the kitchen? What? No, I've never seen that in the U.S. ever. I've seen a lot of different home styles, old, new, different parts of the country. It varies a lot. Home styles and home designs and stuff, but boy, oh boy, have I never seen your laundry in the kitchen. That is just too weird. I'm sorry, I don't agree with that. I don't like it. That's goofy. I guess I'm used to American real estate can vary greatly, of course, but even if you're in an apartment, even if you're in a small house, it's usually big enough to where you have a laundry room, right? Yeah, I'll go with the laundry room. I don't want it in my kitchen. But that's going to do it for this one. There were a few on there that we didn't cover. So, yeah, make sure to use that link down there and check out that original video. And, of course, check out their stuff. I'd love to hear your comments on this one. I feel like there's going to be quite a few. And those are things Australians would never do. But, of course, broad statements like these are always just kind of fun to take with a grain of salt. And it's just kind of fun to see what they really come up with in these types of videos. So I guess I turn it to you. Like I said, wherever you're watching this from, what are some things people from your country would never do? Anywho, if you enjoyed this, throw a like on there if you did, and subscribe to be part of this amazing community we do have here. Click that join button for a really cheap rate and become a member on the channel. I would appreciate that as well. My name is Ian. You're watching IWrocker, and until next time, y'all, have a great weekend. Stay safe out there. I'll catch you later.